Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today, I've got a story for you about how invasive wild hogs are wreaking havoc on crops right here in Oklahoma. The story begins on an early autumn morning when Mr. Smith, a seasoned farmer living in Lincoln County, Oklahoma, was taking a walk through his cornfield. The sun had just risen above the tree line to the east, casting a pale golden light over the tall stalks of corn that were beginning to turn amber. But instead of his usual sense of calm and satisfaction, a deep frown settled on his face. Several rows of corn had been trampled. The soil was churned up. A few irrigation pipes were bent out of shape. Probably deer from last night, he muttered. Still, something didn't sit right. 2 days later, the damage had spread, this time into the neighboring soybean field. Weeds had been ripped out of the ground, and fresh ruts scarred the earth like it had been torn up by a plow. That's when Mr. Smith started to suspect this wasn't the work of some small critter. A few neighbors suggested he set up an infrared camera to see what was really going on after dark. It only took one night for the mystery to unravel. A herd of wild hogs, at least 20 of them, some weighing over 200 pounds, appeared on the screen. They moved in tight formation, grunting, digging, tearing through the field like living bulldozers. They tore up the soybeans, devoured young corn stalks, and showed no signs of fear or hesitation. That was the moment I realized I was no longer in control of my own land, Mr. Smith recalled. In Oklahoma, scenes like this are no longer uncommon. According to data from the U.S. Department of Agriculture and the Oklahoma Farm Bureau, wild hogs have now been found in all 77 counties across the state. They were once scattered in remote southern and southwestern regions, but thanks to their explosive reproduction rate, each female can have 2 to 3 litters a year. With 4 to 10 piglets per litter, they've spread across the entire state in less than a decade. What's even more alarming is how smart and cunning they are. Wild hogs can alter their routines to avoid traps and steer clear of human patrols. They learn quickly. After being chased a few times, they begin entering fields through back routes, sneaking through fences like shadows. Mr. Smith once set up a large steel trap with bait that smelled irresistible, but the camera revealed the lead hogs standing outside, watching before turning away, almost as if they knew exactly what was going on. And the problem doesn't end with crops. One night in early September, one of Mr. Smith's young calves was found with a severe leg injury, bite marks that sank all the way to the bone. The vet confirmed it was the work of an adult wild boar, which can become dangerously aggressive when threatened or defending their young. After that night, Mr. Smith had to overhaul his entire operation, moving livestock pens closer to the house, installing electric fencing, but even that didn't stop the intrusions. Every night, he's jolted awake by the sound of hogs screeching in the fields. Sometimes, he switches on the floodlights, only to catch glimpses of black shapes darting off into the darkness. On other nights, he grabs his rifle and patrols the tree line, now riddled with deep, winding hoofprints, as if the beasts had claimed the land as their own. "I don't feel like this is my land anymore," he says. "It feels occupied," and Mr. Smith is far from alone. Hundreds of farmers across Oklahoma are facing the same nightmare. In Seminole County, one family stopped planting corn altogether after losing 3 straight harvests. In Grady County, a goat farmer lost nearly a third of his herd in just a month. The fear isn't just on the fields anymore. It's followed them into their homes, into their sleep. These are people who once believed that planting seeds and nurturing crops would always lead to a fair harvest. But wild hogs don't care about any of that. To them, the land is for digging, corn is for eating, and everything else, from irrigation lines to tents to ranch gates, is just an obstacle to be torn down. They don't get tired, Mr. Smith says, but they've taught me what exhaustion really feels like. The damage caused by wild hogs goes far beyond what the eye can see. Behind the churned-up soil, the flattened corn stalks, or the wounded calf lies a whole chain reaction, one that only farmers truly understand. Each planting season is a gamble, and after 3 months of relentless hog activity, Mr. Smith had started to lose big. Nearly 40% of his summer corn was gone, left as nothing but stumps, chewed down to the root, scattered like the wreckage of a storm. The soybeans, which he had hoped would salvage the season, fared no better. The seeds were dug up just days after being planted. He lost nearly $15,000 in a single harvest. "I'm one of the lucky ones," Mr. Smith said. "Some folks lose an entire year's income in a single week, and he's not exaggerating." According to the Oklahoma Feral Swine Control Program, the average damage caused by wild hogs to a medium-sized farm ranges from $4,000 to $10,000 per year. Excluding long-term impacts like ruined soil, broken irrigation systems, and damaged farm equipment. But the destruction doesn't end in the fields. At a nearby farm, the Henderson family had just rebuilt a herd of over 60 goats after 3 years of saving. In June, they lost 18 of them, attacked in the middle of the night by a pack of wild hogs. "I never imagined hogs could be that vicious," Mrs. Henderson recalled. "They don't just destroy, they kill to take over." One goat had its belly torn open. Others panicked, ran wild, and broke their necks charging into fences. And it's not just livestock. A report from the Oklahoma Department of Wildlife Conservation, ODWC, documented at least 14 human attacks by wild hogs in 2023 alone, including 3 cases that required hospitalization. In one incident near Ardmore, a 10-year-old boy was chased by a hog while playing in an open lot behind his house. Thankfully, his father fired a warning shot that scared the animals off. The event left the entire neighborhood shaken. Wild hogs also pose a serious disease threat. They carry numerous dangerous pathogens like pseudorabies, brucellosis, and gastrointestinal infections that can spread to both humans and livestock. Mr. Smith had to destroy an entire batch of hay after finding signs of hog urine. Just to be sure his cattle wouldn't get sick. "We're not just losing money," he said. "We're losing trust in the safety of the land we live on." And the damage doesn't stop there. It's reached the roads. On Highway 177 through Seminole County, a driver collided with a wild hog weighing nearly 330 pounds. The car was heavily damaged, though the driver escaped injury. According to the Oklahoma Department of Transportation, the state sees over 200 hog-related vehicle accidents each year, mostly at night or in the early morning when hogs are most active. Statewide, wild hogs are estimated to cause between $60 and $100 million in damage annually, including losses to crops, livestock, infrastructure, and environmental costs. And even that may be a conservative figure. You can't put a number on everything we've lost: our time, our labor, and our sense of security, Mr. Smith said. For many farmers like him, rural life, once peaceful and predictable, has turned into a constant state of alert. Gone are the days of quiet walks through the fields. Now it's sleepless nights, cautious steps through the underbrush, and silent prayers that the morning won't bring more destruction. You can replant the crops. You can replace the equipment. You can rebuild the fences, he sighed. But I don't know when, or if, I'll ever feel like I truly own this land again. Faced with the spread of this relentless invasive species, Mr. Smith and many other farmers came to a sobering realization. This wasn't just a temporary problem. It had become a war with no clear front lines, no announced end date, and absolutely no room for complacency. After nearly 3 seasons of devastating losses, Mr. Smith decided it was time to change tactics. No more just setting up fences or installing porch lights. Instead, he joined a local coalition known as the Feral Hog Task Force, a grassroots group where farmers, hunters, and environmental engineers shared strategies for tracking, trapping, and eliminating wild hogs more effectively. They placed infrared cameras around high-risk zones and deployed large steel traps with remote-triggered gates, ensuring that entire herds could be captured at once without tipping off the dominant sows or boars. One crisp autumn evening, Mr. Smith and 3 neighbors set up a trap deep in the northern woods of his property. For several nights, they baited the area with corn, observing the hogs' travel routes and behavior. On the 6th night, the camera captured a herd of over 30 hogs, led by a massive boar weighing nearly 450 pounds. A true beast. They waited, holding back. Then, on the 7th night, with the entire herd inside the trap, Mr. Smith hit the remote. The heavy metal gate crashed down with a thud that echoed through the trees. For the first time, he had captured an entire herd, and for the first time, he felt like he had a real shot at reclaiming his land. But the story didn't end there. So what if you catch one herd? Mr. Smith said at a community meeting. There are thousands more out there, and he's right. With their explosive reproduction, just one surviving pair can repopulate rapidly in a single season. That's why most isolated control efforts fail. Humans are reducing numbers while the hogs are multiplying exponentially. Oklahoma has tried scaling up its response. One measure involved testing a bait called kaput feral hog bait, containing warfarin, a blood thinner previously used in rat poison. Though approved by the Environmental Protection Agency, EPA, kaput remains controversial due to concerns about harming non-target animals or pets that might feed on contaminated carcasses. Many communities, including Mr. Smith's task force, have refused to use chemicals, wary of turning a biological war into an ecological disaster. Professional hunters have also been contracted to cull hogs via helicopter, an approach used widely in Texas and slowly gaining ground in Oklahoma. But high costs and safety risks have limited its wider adoption. In the meantime, farmers like Mr. Smith continue to rely on themselves, patrolling at night with rifles, setting more traps, checking camera footage every morning, living in a state of constant vigilance. This isn't traditional farming anymore, he said. We're soldiers now. Soldiers in work shirts, fighting for the land we once just farmed. And yet, in the midst of this struggle, something remarkable began to emerge. Solidarity. Farmers who once kept to themselves started sharing footage, lending each other traps, and teaming up for nighttime hunts. There was no room for isolation anymore. The enemy, wild hogs, didn't care about property lines or farm signs. Mr. Smith has often wondered if the day will ever come when he can sleep through the night. No need to check the cameras or listen for rustling in the grass behind the house. But in time, he came to realize the goal isn't to end the fight. It's to learn how to live with it, with grit, with technology, and with a community that refuses to give in. I never thought I'd have to learn how to hunt hogs just to grow corn, he said with a bitter smile. But if that's what it takes to protect the land my father and grandfather built, then that's what I'll do.